All right, Barakatehao, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rakakodash. Welcome to part two of our prophecy, January 21st, 2020 year of prophecy. So we're just gonna continue where we're gonna go to, which is Jeremiah, the first chapter, and I'll start at the fourth verse. It says, "Then the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations." And this is pretty much why we have to tell these different nations, where they're going. Some people are getting good news, some people are getting bad news. Uh, Among the nation of Israel, the elect are getting the good news, and two-thirds are getting the same bad news that the other nations are getting, beginning with Esau. All right, so now let's go from there to Isaiah 34:1. "Come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world, and all things that come forth of it," because these prophecies are to be prophesied to the world. This message of the prophecies and of this destruction is coming to the world. Now, we're reading in the article about most millennials fear World War III within the next decade, meaning from 2020 to 2030. So they know something is coming because, as we were speaking of earlier, people are becoming more and more in tune with the scriptures because the truth has been out there, and people are forced to face their fears, because nobody wants World War III. Nobody wants nuclear devastation. Most people. I mean, the prophets, want, the prophets, the elect, they want this thing to come so that deliverance can come. But the majority of people in the world don't want these things to come, and they figure by not talking about them that they won't, come to pass. And pretty much what they are is they're pretty much in denial of the things that are and that are imminent, because these things are coming. Whether people accept it or not, these prophecies will be fulfilled. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about them. The words of the Lord are faithful; they're true, so they will come to pass. The Lord said it will, and they will. Salakia. So all we could do right now is just prophesy what the Lord said was going to come, and keep on teaching until they do come. Because as the scriptures say, "And then shall they know that a prophet has been among them." Now, these people are afraid, and rightly so, because, if you're not going to be delivered in this from this devastation that's coming, then you do have something to fear. Just trying to find this one scripture. Excuse me. So they have the right. They're in the right spirit. I mean, I ran across the scripture. I thought it was here. This is pretty good. I'm gonna read some of this. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. So I'll read a couple of these precepts because pretty good. But let's start with this one. Proverbs 24 and 10. I'm sorry, 24. Proverbs 10 and 24. It says, "The fear of the wicked, it shall come upon him." So that's, what they fear the most. But most people don't want to talk about the end times. But now that the truth is out, they're forced to face their fears and talk about these things. And this is why there's so many articles and so many things on prophecy coming out, and the men of the Lord dealing with, with these issues that people are forced to deal with them. Then you have these so-called scholars, and so-called plantation Christian teachers that go into prophecy, that bring the prophecy out. But for the most part, on the forefront is the Hebrew Israelites that are bringing these prophecies um, to the public eye, so to speak. And that's what's happening. The Lord is noising abroad what He's about to do. So it says, the fear of the wicked it shall come upon him, but the desire of the righteous shall be granted. As the whirlwind passeth, so is the wicked no more, but the righteous is an everlasting foundation. So this world we know is run under a wicked vibration, because all you got to do is see or look and see the policies and the legislation that's being passed. Are the things that these individuals in power are doing, are they righteous or are they wicked? Unless you're a wicked person, you'll say they're righteous. But if you're a righteous person, or a person that knows the difference between right and wrong, you're gonna say that this is a wicked society based off of the way it's being run. It says, as vinegar to the teeth and as smoke to the eyes, so is the sluggard to them that send him. That's going into something else. It says, the fear of the Lord prolongeth days, but the years of the wicked shall be shortened. See, the years of the wicked shall be shortened, because the Lord already set up a set amount of time that they would rule. Remember, every empire had their time and every empire had their end. Time and chance happening to every man. And once the time of that particular empire was up, they started to decline. Their empire started to become more and more brittle. They started to have to send out more military forces to gain more money so that they can keep their empire afloat. And that's what you see going on right now. All right, just like the Roman Empire and all other empires. The hope of the righteous shall be gladness, but the expectation of the wicked shall perish. And that's straight up. The way of the Lord is strength to the upright, but destruction shall be to the workers of iniquity. And these individuals that are wicked are going to be destroyed, especially Jake, like that clown that's talking about, he's going to eat pork if he's hungry. He don't give a damn what the Most High says, Boozy or whatever the hell that clown's name is. Then he tried to do like a little skit where the Most High was whispering to him, and he stuck his middle finger out at the Most High, and he said, F you, most, But, the Lord is steady moving on these individuals, and they don't even know it. It says, the righteous shall never be removed, but the wicked shall not inhabit the earth, because the earth is going to be given to the meek. And Esau, the other nations will not inherit the earth. Neither will 2/3 of Israel in this time. When the kingdom is established, then the 2/3 will have their inheritance. And when the kingdom is established, after all these nations serve their captivity, then they'll have their inheritance. The only nation that will not have an inheritance on the earth with the inhabitants of the earth is Esau, the Edomites. All right, so now let's see what else we have here. All right, so now let's go back to that article. And let's read a little bit of this article. We'll read the headline again. World War III, majority of millennials fear nuclear attack this decade. Report. Most millennials around the world believe a nuclear attack will probably occur in the next decade. An International Committee of the Red Cross report has revealed. And this was brought out yesterday, March 20th. It says the shock survey is considered an indication young adults' views on the future of geopolitical affairs is exceedingly bleak. The Red Cross surveyed 16,000 millennials, people between the ages of 20 and 35 in 16 countries and territories late last year. Because Esau likes to do surveys. He likes to have everything set up in rations. How do people think? He likes to try to categorize everything, categorical. Half of those nations are experiencing conflict right now, such as Afghanistan, Syria, and Ukraine. The remaining nations featured in the survey, such as Switzerland, the UK, Ukraine, and the US, are at peace based on the results released last week. This demographic is worried about what the future holds. The report concludes more than half of millennials, 54%, believe it is likely a nuclear attack will occur in the next decade. Now, back in the days, when we would talk about that, people, nukes were real, they were there, but people didn't really, you know, engage it that much because, it was like thought lunacy to do something like that. But now that they see all these different wars and proxy wars and different situations, conflicts going on around the world, and they see that all nations are equipped. A lot of these different nations are equipped with the missiles, and they see the back and forth going on. They see that it's imminent, or that it's that eventually the next war that's going to be fought is going to be by nuclear missiles, and the people that are in those positions to give the decision to push the button to make these things happen are seeming more and more volatile. But what it is although all these different leaders of these nations may all be in cahoot, which they are for the most part, eventually the Lord is going to be the one that's going to step in, because it said that he's going to smite the bow out of their right hand, and the Lord Spirit is going to be in those missiles to direct them to hit the spots that they're supposed to hit. So really technically, when we read or when we, there was I believe it was a externalization of the hierarchy, if I'm not mistaken, that book. I'm not sure if that was Alice Bailey that wrote it, but from what I understand in that book, if I got the correct book, the nuclear missiles were pretty much just used as a deterrent, or pretty much as a scare tactic to get the people to finally accept a new world order. To be so sick and tired of the wars and things that were going on in the world, that they would be willing, to sacrifice their freedom to accept this new world order, so that this nuclear war would not happen. So this is all that the international bankers plan on using those missiles for, is just as a scare tactic. They don't really plan on using them, although they may use like a pocket nuke, or maybe have one example, on the earth where somebody's totally devastated by nuclear war or nuclear destruction, just to be able to cement, their position, and cement to the world that, look, we need something to happen in order to stop this from ever happening worldwide. So that's pretty much what they're using it for. But the Most High is the one that made them create the Smith. Matter of fact, let's get that. He made them create these Smiths for the purpose of using, or of fulfilling prophecy. Because let's get this scripture real quick. Let's hold that on deck. And then let me get this other one. Because there have been many wars on the planet. There have been many rumors of wars, but never on this fashion. This is Isaiah 9:5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. So pretty much every war that has ever happened, for the most part, has been fought on the battlefield, with all different types of armor, going back to the beginning of time, swords and spears and arrows and all of that. It says, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. But this particular war that's coming is going to be with burning and fuel of fire. So now, back then, you had catapults, you had those big, I guess you could say, for lack of better words, cannonballs that were put in these cannonballs that were uh, had tar or whatever type of uh, uh, burning whatever on them, and they were set ablaze and shot, to different castles and different, against different enemies. So we know it's not talking about that because they already had that during the time when they had the armor and the coat of mail and all of that, the helmets and the shields and the swords and all that. But this particular war that's going to be fought is going to be fought with fuel of fire, burning and fuel of fire. Why? To fulfill the prophecy of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Because the scriptures say that America, Babylon the Great, is going to go out like Sodom and Gomorrah went out. And we know what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah. The Most High caused the elements in the heavens to fuse together and to create this nuclear devastation, which was the elements in the heavens put together in the form of fire, and it came down and rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah. So now that same analogy is being used for Babylon the Great. And now we know when we research ancient Babylon, and we got two examples, one which is speaking about Babylon, which is Babylon the Great, and the other one speaking about Esau. And we know that Babylon the Great was taken out by what? By fire, nuclear fire that the Most High caused in the heavens. But back then there were no vehicles or rockets used to bring that technology from one part of the world to the other. There was no scientists back then that created that, and that created the booster rocket to send that devastation or destruction from one side of the world to the other. It was just the Most High in the heavens that fused all these things together. And he gave Esau that technology through the scientists, as we're going to read, to create these things. All right, so let's go to Jeremiah 50 and 40, which when you read from the top, is speaking about Babylon, which is Babylon the Great, America. As the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith the Lord, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. So how can a place, or this place called Babylon, be destroyed in this fashion to where no people, animals, anything will be able to inhabit that land again? I mean, even though, later on after the devastation and everything cools off, you're going to have desert creatures here. But as far as setting up colonies and cities and, towns and all that, that's not going to ever happen again. No, there's not going to be any people to inhabit this land. So how can that happen? And when we research ancient Babylon pretty much was taken over. There really wasn't no war that took place, So how can this happen? It has to be by thermonuclear destruction, because the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah by fire and brimstone that came from the heavens. Now, when we jump back to the 49th chapter and you read up to the 7th verse down, this is speaking about Edom, Esau, Jeremiah 49:18. As in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith the Lord, no man shall abide there, neither shall a son of man dwell in it. So pretty much Babylon the Great, the daughter of Babylon, and Edom are all together and as one, because the Edomites will be ruling what would be later known as Babylon the Great, which will be destroyed by thermonuclear destruction, the way that Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed by thermonuclear destruction, minus the rockets, the vehicles that propelled that technology from one part of the world to the other, because the Most High himself guided that fire down. And he's going to guide this fire through those vehicles, that are used to propel that technology or that fire from one part of the world to the other. So now what the Lord did was he gave that technology that he fused in the heavens to create this fire to these scientists by what? By way of sitting down and trying this and trying that, and different chemicals put together, fused together, to see which one could come together and create the greatest devastation. You know, they had the hydrogen bomb, the atomic bomb, but eventually they used plutonium, and it was something else. I forget what it was, and they fused that together, and that's where they got their nuclear power from. You see, and this is why we read in Isaiah 54:16, "Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire." And the reason why America took a good portion of those scientists from Germany was because the Germans, according to the scriptures, which are Teman, are the wisest among Esau. So those wise men of Teman, which were in their scientists, America got a good portion, and Russia got another portion of them. And they used these scientists to create these modern day weapons, because this war that's going to be fought is not going to be fought as other wars were fought, because Esau is slowly but surely getting away from the ancient way of fighting wars, which was on the battlefield. You know, you lose, you have casualties, they have casualties. You know, you may have men that get killed in battle, they have men that get killed in battle, so on and so forth. So ever since they had the planes and the helicopters, now the drones, they're getting away from sending men, military men out there to be in harm's way. So eventually, what did they get? They got the technology of the missile, to where you can shoot a missile from a plane, or you can shoot a missile from a faraway distance to destroy a particular, enemy. And this is all the Lord's doing. All right. Now, before I read the rest of that, let's go to 2 Ezra 16, and let's go straight to the point. Just bear with me 1 second. This is 2 Ezra 16, and I'll go straight to the point, 13. It says, "For strong is his right hand," because the Lord says he's going to smite the bow out of their right hand, and he's going to guide it. "For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow," which the bow is what? That's the missiles. The silo. "His arrows that he shooteth are sharp." And what are the arrows? Those missiles. It says, "And shall not miss." Why? Because the Lord is going to guide them when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. So these missiles will be used. There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They will be used, because the Lord gave this technology to Esau to build, so to bring forth their devastation and destruction. Just like he gave Esau the technology of the web, the internet, so that this word can be pushed out at a exponential rate, that it wouldn't be able to have been done any other way. Because there's no way for the men of the Lord, because Yahweh Shai said what? The harvest is plenteous, but the laborers are few. So with the few laborers that are there, it is impossible to travel the whole world, first of all, financially, and second of all, it takes time, and it's a tiring thing. So it's impossible to have the men of the Lord go all over the planet to propagate this word, so that the Lord could bring the end, So the Lord gave Esau the technology to create this web, the internet, to push this word out there. Just like he gave their scientists the technology and the know-how on how to fuse these elements together to create this nuclear weapon to bring forth their end. The Most High is a master strategist, man. So going back to Isaiah 54:16 at the middle, it says, "And bringeth forth an instrument for his work." What was the instrument for their work, for the smith's work? It was the missiles. It says, "And I have created the waster to destroy." So these missiles are wasters, and they were created for the sole purpose of destroying, because this is how the Most High is going to bring Babylon the Great down and Esau's empire down. This is what we read of in the book of Revelation, throughout Revelation, when it speaks about the lake of fire. It's not talking about no hell or no pit. It's talking about the nuclear fire that's going to be in America, which John, the apostle, saw from the heavens looking down, and he saw America from one end to the other, from north to south, east to west, on fire, and it looked like a lake of fire. That's why he described it in that manner. Because from where he was looking down, it looked like a big lake that was on fire. And what caused that? The nuclear missiles. Why? Because it was the prophecies of the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. So now we know how this war is going to be fought. And this information has been pushed out there, and people, although they say what they say, they're starting to recognize and starting to accept the reality that a nuclear war will come. And we read about that in the scriptures. Before we go, matter of fact, let me read a little more of the article, and then I want to go to the couple of precepts that came to mind as I was on my way here. Okay, go to Revelation, hold that, and then we can. All right, so let me go back and read this. Let's read this article, a little more of this article, and we can continue on from there. Where are we? Okay, so it goes on to say, it says, those questioned in Malaysia are most likely to fear a nuclear device bomb being detonated, while Syrians are the least likely to worry about this question. Respondents also believe nuclear weapons were the least concerning of the 12 different issues they were asked to rank, with corruption topping the list, followed by unemployment and increasing poverty. Yeah, because people are not really worried about that, because they're worried about the here and now. They're not really worried about the future. And the most pertinent thing right now that people are worried about is job security and the financial system, the economy, because that will determine their future. It says, however, the fear of a nuclear attack appears to be a trend. The report chimes with a January 2018 World Economic Forum survey of 1,000 leaders from government and industry also identified nuclear war as a top fear. And that is the underlying thing, that nuclear war is coming. So they are right to have fear of nuclear warfare, because that is what's coming. Why? Because it's Bible prophecy. Not because Russia and America are such enemies, or America is invading Iran and Russia is watching over them, and Libya this and Syria that. It's because of prophecy. These things would not be possible if it wasn't for prophecy. Because remember, behind the scenes, a lot of these world leaders really cool with each other. But the Lord is going to cause something to happen to break that coolness. It ain't going to be that baby face, this is for the cool. It ain't going to be that. It's going to be friction that's going to cause these things to happen. Why? Because the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. And it's time for his son, Yahushua, to rule, along with the Israelites, which are joint heirs, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. It says, the fears of a man-made apocalypse relate to the lingering chance of a nuclear conflict between the U.S. and North Korea. Now, they can say man-made apocalypse, but it's not a man-made apocalypse, because it's an apocalypse made by the Most High. Now, he's using men to do these things, but it really goes beyond man-made. And this is why I don't know what nationality the person that wrote this article is. They most likely might be an Edomite, because Esau really doesn't believe in the Most High. That's why they try to make logical sense of everything, because they can't conceive in their mind that a power in the heaven that created them created the brain in such a complicated way, and created the digestive system in such a complicated way, and the body in such a complicated way, that it's impossible for a power to have created everything that they see and be governing everything that you see. See? It says nuclear armed enemies, India and Pakistan, could rekindle their decades long squabble at any time. And the world's greatest nuclear powers, the US and Russia, possess most of the world's stockpiles of warheads. But nuclear catastrophe is not the only concern worrying millennials. Approximately 47% of respondents believe they would witness World War III in their lifetime, while 46% disagreed. And the 47% are correct, because this thing is looming. It's right there on the horizon. And the prophecy that comes before it, the microchip, the mark of the beast, is right there. They're running neck to neck, you know? And once this microchip, which is the mark of the beast, is fully implemented, that's when things will start speeding up a lot faster. You know, as you've always heard Elder Apostle Tara speak on. And it gives you countries with nuclear weapons and, you know, pictures and all that. The apparent pessimism of responses led Red Cross President Peter Maurer to lament how millennials see the world. But no, it's why are you lamenting? You're lamenting because you're the wicked. You know, because the scriptures say in Revelation 18 and 20 to rejoice. You know, you heavens and you holy apostles. So the men of the Lord will be rejoicing that the Lord's finally going to judge this whole, especially when he judges her. But these people, they lament. Why? Because they don't have any hope for the future, you know, outside of what they see. You know, it says he wrote in the reports forward, fatalistic, hopeful, worried, and uncertain. Things are not likely to get easier for millennials. They are living in a world in which wars are becoming more and more complex. And we were speaking about that earlier. Warfare is not fought like it was in the past. It's moving into a new trend. And that new trend is not to put any men in harm's way. You know, this is Esau, because why? They were given the gift, you know, and the blessing of the sword, and they use it well. It says, but Maurer also added, millennials are the politicians, decision makers, strategists, and opinion makers of tomorrow. The study also found a clear majority of millennials think that wars and armed conflict are avoidable, with those from war-affected countries, territories more hopeful than those in conflict-free countries. And it's not avoidable, because in the long run, the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua is going to bring, he's going to bring the pain. So now let's go from there to Revelation 8 and 13. And it reads, and I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven. And remember, one of the things that Yahushua spoke of is what? Wars and rumors of wars. Now, when you look at the list of that Yahushua spoke of, there always been those things, pestilence and famines, you know, and earthquakes and wars and all that, rumors of war. There's always been these things on the planet. What makes today so different is the amount of these things that are happening and how they're all happening in conjunction one with another. That's the difference. There's never been a time like this. You know, there's never been a time where everything was happening, you know, in clusters, you know. Why? Because the prophecies are speaking and they're growing exponentially. It says, and I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound. And notice there were three. There weren't 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. There were three. And there's a reason why there were three. Now, woe represents destruction, but woe also represents war. Because war is woe. You know, majority of people in wars are horrified. You know, you have those gung-ho, you know, bloodthirsty devils, you know, that love war, you know, but for the most part, most people do not like war. They do not like conflict. They'd rather things be peaceful. They'd rather be a peaceful resolve than to have to go to war. But at last resort, they would go to war if they had to. You know? So there's 3 world wars that the Lord prophesied would come. And those are the last 3 angels, or the last 3 trumpets. And we're right now at the ending of the 6th trumpet, in the 7th trumpet about to blow. The 7th trumpet would be, pretty much World War III, when Yahushua and the angels come back, when Esau is in that direct conflict of World War III. That'll be like the beginning stages of the 7th trumpet. But the 7th trumpet is really, when the missiles are dropped. That is it. Because the Lord said that he will deliver thee in 6 troubles. Yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. So now let's jump to Revelation 9 and 12. 1 woe is past. What is it speaking about? The 1 woe is past? It's speaking about 1 world war, which was World War I. And if you have the spiritual eyes to see, when you read Revelation 9 from the first verse down, you can see that it's speaking about World War I. And Elder Apostle Tar and us, we did a lesson years ago on Revelation, the 9th chapter, and went into the whole breakdown of how it pertains to World War I, and everything matched perfectly if you had the spiritual eyes to see. So it says, 1 woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter. So 2 more world wars are coming after that one. Because we read in the 8th chapter that there were 3 woes, or 3 world wars. So when this one passed, there were 2 more to come. Right? Now let's jump to Revelation 11 and 14. And it says the 2nd woe is past, which is what? World War II. World War I happened from 19, I believe it was 1914 to 1917, or I can't remember the exact dates, something along those lines. 1914, I think it was like 4 or 5 years. Then World War II happened from about 1939 or so, around there, to around 1940 to around 1944, 45, around there. You brothers can, if you want to get the exact dates, you could go online and type in World War I, World War II. So we read that the 2nd woe is past, which is World War II, and behold, the 3rd woe cometh quickly. So there's another war coming after that that's coming quickly. And now World War II, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, ended in 1945. So from 1945 to the present, it really hasn't been that long, because it said the 3rd woe cometh quickly. Because from that point on, World War II, that's when they really started getting into building and creating more bombs, because of the World War II was ended when they dropped those bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Fat Boy and Little Man. So they were already in the process of making these things, but they didn't have the knowledge yet, or the missile yet, that would have the nuclear power or capability. That came a little later. And they seen and tested what these things do. And they know the devastation that it can cause. So they really don't want to use it again. But the Lord is going to cause them to use it. And there's a reason why it says that the earth rock to and fro, real to and fro, like a drunkard. And what's going to cause that? The missiles when they hit. Because there's going to be 200 million missiles that's going to hit America. So it's going to be like it's going to rock this place back and forth, like a drunken stagger, and they can't get their footing. And it's only the angels of the Lord that's going to be holding the earth together, so that the earth doesn't totally break apart. Like some clowns out there teach that the whole world is going to be destroyed. I believe that's the Death Star in Revelation. So it says, the 2nd woe is past, and behold, the 3rd woe cometh quickly. So from 1945 to 2000 was what, 55 years? We're now in 2020. So that's what? That's 75 years. That's not that long. Remember, a day to the Lord is 1,000 years. So we're fastly approaching the 3rd World War. That is starting to speak a little here and there, but it hasn't fully spoken. And once this microchip is made mandatory throughout the planet, which is the mark of the beast, that's when things will speed up, you know, and you will see the conflicts get more intense because we're approaching the end, you know, World War III. So I read that again. The second war is past, and behold, the third war cometh quickly, and it is coming quickly. Now let's go there and just read a few verses in Isaiah 34, and we can close out because we read in Jeremiah 49 pertaining to Edom, and Jeremiah 50, I believe it was, pertaining to Babylon, that the Lord is going to destroy Edom and Babylon the same way he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. And we know that Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed by fire from the Lord Yahweh Bashem Shai. So we know that that's the way Esau is going out. And the very first nation that the Lord is going to visit when he comes back is the nation of Edom. You know, and we know through the scriptures that Esau is the end of the world, that they would be ruling at the end. The scriptures also say that the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. The scriptures also say that the Edomites are the wicked. So when you put it all together, as far as prophecy is concerned, everything points to the so-called white man as being the Edomites and the final rulers of this planet before the true ruler and rulers reign, which is Yahweh Shai and the Israelites. So let's go back to Isaiah 34. Come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world and all things that come forth of it. Because this message of this destruction is for the whole world. And in the midst of the message to the whole world being this destruction, there is a separate message to the elect of the nation of Israel that they will be saved, deliverance. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. And this is why they're amassing these armies over there in the Middle East, which the scriptures call the Valley of Jehoshaphat, or the Most High's judgment, and also calls Armageddon, which is the mountain of the troops. Because the indignation of the Lord, his determination is to gather the nations to pour upon them his indignation. He hath utterly destroyed them. He had delivered them to the slaughter. So what we're reading now in Isaiah 34 is a message to the world, to their armies, that the Lord is going to destroy them. And what we're reading also is the aftermath of the destruction. Now, some prophets, saw the actual destruction, and some prophets saw the destruction and the aftermath. So Isaiah happened to be one of the prophets that saw the destruction and the aftermath. It says, their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood. And then this is also going to be a great feast for them birds that the Most High promised. And all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, meaning Esau's governments will be dissolved. Because once America goes down, the land of Israel is going to be destroyed by nuclear missiles. The Lord is going to guide there. And there may be a few places on the earth that will get hit. And this is gonna, because everything is interlinked. So this is gonna cause a great collapse throughout the whole world. All right. It says, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. So you're gonna see what they call a mushroom cloud. And if we were on the computer, which I wanted to show, they actually show some pictures in that article of nuclear devastation. And they show you the mushroom clouds, which Isaiah and the Apostle John described as scrolls being rolled together. And if you look at a scroll being rolled together, and you look at the so-called mushroom cloud, you see that they look similar. And all the hosts shall fall down as a leaf falleth from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree, because these different governments are all going to collapse. Because this is the Lord bringing Esau down to usher in his kingdom. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven, meaning Esau's heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea. Why upon Idumea? Because they're the ones that are ruling. The other nations just happen to be in the mix, and upon the people of my curse to judgment, because they are the people of the Lord's curse. That's why they look the way they look. And they are the wicked that are reserved for the day of wrath. It says, the sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness and with the blood of lambs and goats, just dealing with the different military men and just people in general. And the fat of the kidneys of rams, for the Lord hath a sacrifice in Basra. So this is another code name for America, Basra. And a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. And the land of Idumea today represents America, because ancient Idumea or Edom was not destroyed the way that America is going to be destroyed. You know, it was not destroyed that way. And matter of fact, there's still, when you go on YouTube, you could actually go to videos where they show you how big that place is and all the attractions that they have, you know, in that land of Edom. They still have all type of attraction there, people going there to visit. Said, and the unicorn shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness, because everything Esau has is going to fall. Their technology, their weapons, and all of that. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, in the year of recompense for the controversy of Zion. And all of these things are being done for what you did to the nation of Israel. And this is why you're being gathered over there. And this is why you're being prepared unto blood. Esau, Edomites, and the streams thereof shall be turned into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone, and the land thereof shall become burning pitch. Why? Because the scriptures say that there comes a day where that shall smoke like an oven, and the elements shall be melted with fervent heat. And what's going to cause that fervent heat and the oven effect? The nuclear missiles that the Lord gave them the technology to create to bring upon their own demise. It says, it shall not be quenched night nor day. The smoke thereof shall go up forever, from generation to generation, because it's going to burn for a long time. Because you got to remember, you got 5,000 square miles, and you have all different types of trees and grass and fossil fuels and all different type of stuff that's going to burn for a long period of time. It shall lie waste, none shall pass through it forever and ever. The same thing we read about when it speaks about the devastation of Babylon. So you see how everything interlinks, Esau and Babylon. The daughter of Edom, the daughter, or should I say the daughter of Babylon, the Edomites, Sodom and Gomorrah, everything interlocks with each other. But the cormorant and the bittern shall possess it, the owl also and the raven shall dwell in it, and he shall stretch out upon it the line of confusion and the stones of emptiness. Because when you look at this country after it's devastated, you're not going to know where one state ended, the other one started. You're not going to know where all of these attractions are. You're not going to know where Disney World was. You're not going to know where the White House and the Capitol buildings, you know, New York, and you're not going to know where none of that stuff is at. It says, they shall call the nobles thereof to the kingdom, but but none shall be there. Why? Because they're going to be destroyed. They're not going to be here. And all her princes shall be nothing. So there ain't going to be no more Edomites shooting their mouth and passing this bullshit ass legislation anymore. There ain't going to be no more cops, you know, pulling people over, giving them tickets, because this whole land is going to be roasted by the fire of the nuclear missiles and by the fire of the concentrated fire from the chariots. The thorns shall come up in their palaces, nettles, brambles in their fortresses thereof, and it shall be an habitation of dragons and a court for owls. So it's talking about symbolically how in the places where these buildings were, because there's not going to be anything there, you're going to have the cormorant and the owl and these different wild creatures, because there's not going to be any stone, anything left, because of the nuclear missile that shall melt with fervent heat. But in the places where these things used to stand, you know, the Washington Monument and all that, you'll see wild beasts and wild animals there. The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow. Uh, the screech owl also shall rest there and find for herself a place of rest. There shall the great owl make her nest, and lay and hatch and gather under the shadow. There shall be vultures. There shall the vultures also be gathered, every one with her mate. Then it says, seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail. So these prophecies that we're reading about in Isaiah 34 and throughout the scriptures, none of them are going to fail. None shall want her mate, because you can't make this book with anybody else. For my mouth it hath commanded, because the Most High gave the word, it's his prophecy, and his spirit it hath gathered them. So everything you see happening out here is the Lord's handiwork. And it's not going to fail. You know, so these people are right to fear nuclear devastation within their lifetime, because it's fast approaching and it's in your face. You know, the prophets are out there teaching and putting this information through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai Bashem Rakakodash in your face. You know, so if you brothers go to the other video, I put the link in the description box there. I had another article I wanted to go into. Maybe Lord's will, if I have a chance, I'll do it later. That I didn't get a chance to go into. And that's also in the description box, dealing with Puerto Rico and how they're outraged because they found stockpiles of earthquake aid from Hurricane Maria, was it, or earthquake, with one of them things, and they were outraged that that wasn't used to help them, because Esau don't give a fuck about you. You so-called Puerto Ricans out there, the tribe of Ephraim, these honkies up here don't give a fuck about you. You know, I'll probably get it straight for saying the H word, but it's the truth. You trying to seek love from these devils, and they don't give a fuck about you. All they care about you is get your resources, you know, pop your women, and that's it. There's nothing that you could get cheap labor off of you, and that's it. They don't give a fuck about you. But you're going to keep praising that sweet Jesus, and that's why what's going on in Puerto Rico is going on in Puerto Rico. Because you're betraying your power, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, with your so-called black men, and you're worshiping the goddamn white man. And that's where the Lord's bringing that devastation upon you. You know, so with that, you know, I pray that you brothers have been edified. Until the next time I say, Shalom.